Hi guys, I'm about to put this thing away, and so I wanted to go over it a little bit and show some people been asking a lot of questions about how it's made, how the parts are made, and that sort of thing. So I want to go over it in detail a little bit, and then I'm gonna pack it up. So we'll do a partial tear down, kind of look at each or some of the pieces, and give you some clues on how you can do this yourself. Again, it's been a great response over the last year, and we're moving on to different things and looking forward to hearing from you guys about those. All right, so, well, we know how this thing works. We've been watching the videos. Okay, so we've got our 3 axes controlled by 3 stepper motors. These all come out of DVD drives or CD drives. They're about the same. So we've got, this is X or Y running on this motor. And then this is the other one running on this motor. And then we've got the Z-axis is working, I get a pointer, using this time, it's not focused. There we go. There's a tiny little stepper motor right here. It's the same one that I used to make those linear actuators, and it's actually, so you can see that in another video. And this is actually, it's essentially the same thing. That there's the little stepper motor. I've got a piece of heat shrink tubing and a screw right there, and it's just running this lifter up and down. Okay, so we got our three motors. That's what the thing's running on. And then what I'm doing is I'm actually, the motors, we're just going, they're bipolar motors, so each one runs out to these, and so there's the 2 coils for each one. And the software that I'm using, which is available at piepins.com, the software is essentially just allowing you to control each of these pins and put power to them or whatever you want to do, so that you're really just running each step by controlling the pins. It's pretty simple and straightforward, and you just tell it to step so many times and change the states of the pins, and that's the way it works. All right. So this is this wire is actually, just so we know everything. Now these are some it's just some pins to make a header on a PC board, and they're soldered. Got some heat shrink tube there, and then this is mouse wire. That's what I use a lot. When you have an old mouse, it's not working right, you can just get the wire out of it. It's colored, and it's pretty flexible. It's usually pretty thin, especially for carrying low current. It's pretty good stuff. So that's what that stuff is. It's mouse wire. So you got 3 wires, 3 motors. Now, the wires are just held on here by this bracket. And that is actually a hold down bracket for one of the pins, or one of the slide bars. That's a slide bar there. One of these slide bars in the DVD, there's these little brackets in there, and they got these nice little screws and whatnot. So anytime I take something apart, I just collect all those little brackets and I just cut it off there and smoothed it off, and then it worked great for that hold down. So let me pop this out. And I'm going to actually take that Z-axis off of there. Okay, so the Z-axis, you remember going from video 1 to video 2, we added the Z-axis and we're drawing some stuff. Oh, that screw's still on there. Okay. All I really did was put this part in there. So if I back this screw out a little bit, then this Z-axis should pop out. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so here's our Z-axis. It's just a piece of walnut that I had. I just cut it to where, make sure I'm in the picture there. Yep. Okay, I just cut these, this ledge on it so that it would fit down inside of this hole. It had to go between the bars here. That's why it goes to this size, and then it steps down to this size. I think I did all this on a table saw. This is just a pin. It's the the tube out of a pin, It has this nice metal piece right here, you know, on the end where the ball is. And it fit through this washer, and again, this washer came out of a DVD drive somewhere. All right, so I just glue, you know, there's a big hole drilled through here, and then I glued this on as the guide. Just super glued it on there. I use super glue for everything. I had to polish that hole out a little bit so that it would slide. And then the mechanism is pretty simple. The stepper motor turns the screw. This piece right here is threaded, so it just goes up and down as it's turned. This is just a little guide to kind of hold this screw in place. I bent that out of a piece of metal that was, again, in a DVD drive. You know, collect all those pieces of metal. Same thing here. And then the pin is held down by a spring. Let me take that. See that spring there? All right. Pull that off of there. That spring, I think that is from the door of the front door of a DVD drive. You know, the little flap door. And then this bracket, I don't know what it's from, but it's again, it's a little bracket out of something, some kind of DVD drive or something, and it was just a good thing to hook that spring on. Okay, so there's the pin. This is again another piece of metal from the DVD drive. I just wrapped it around this pin so that it takes a little tension, and it kind of bends sideways and catches in there. Okay, but you can kind of twist it. That's how you adjust the tension on the pin. Okay, and then here's the lifter. Just goes around the pin on both sides. Okay, again, piece of scrap metal from the DVD drive. I bent it around something, and then right there you can see I soldered it. This metal was actually tinned a little bit, and it was pretty easy to solder, so I put a little bead of solder, got some solder inside, then I could run the screw through there and kind of tap the threads. Okay, that's a hold down for one of these rods in a DVD drive. You'll see these little hold downs everywhere. Okay, so you get them. All right, that's pretty much the Z-axis. It's pretty straightforward. All right, the other axes. All right, so we'll look at this one. Everyone's asking me how I've got this screw, you know, this hook to the screw. So the motor and the screw, of course, that all comes as one unit from the DVD drive. You've got to, you know, take the connectors off and solder your wires on here. So you just, you know, heat it up, pop the connectors off that are there. You solder your wires on. You got to be careful about not overheating it. And then I took this as just epoxy, mixed up some epoxy and put on there, and it bonds everything together so that it's strong and the wires won't pull off. Okay, I do that a lot with either epoxy or super glue. Super glue sometimes will run into places where you don't want it. The epoxy's thicker. Okay, so I've got this box that basically just, you know, it just slides on the rails here. I guess they're rods, not rails. And then this piece here is actually the follower that went on this screw. I cut the plastic off, the extra plastic, and then this is a little bracket that I bent up from a piece of the case of the DVD drive that has a nice piece of thin steel, usually the top of the DVD drive when you take it apart. And I just cut this out with a pair of, you know, tin snips like this. Okay, and then just use my pliers. I've got several different kinds of pliers. I don't see them right now, but you know, a pair of flat duckbill pliers, and then I bent all these things up to hold this piece right there. So if I take this screw out, then this, you know, this bracket will, I'm not going to take it off all the way out. And I might have to get it to come off. again, all these screws they come out of the DVD drives. There's all types of little tiny screws if you take that thing all the way apart. I mean, if you get down, I mean, there's even lasers and all that, and you get a lot of these, you know, neodymium magnets are inside of those DVD drives. That's what controls the optics. It moves the lenses around on the laser, are these little neodymium magnets. So you can find things like that inside there too. There's all kinds of great little things. Alright, so that just pops off. So here's the piece of plastic. That's the follower. And then here's the bracket that I bent up that the follower sits in. And then it screws in to the frame right there and right there. Okay? It's nothing fancy. You just take your time. I used a file and the duckbill pliers and the tin snips and made that bracket. Okay? And then this motor is just screwed on right there. Now, you've got a lot of fooling around to do, you know, once you put an axis together. So you've got to get this to where it slides back and forth easily with a little pressure in this direction, because the follower is actually, there's a spring in there, so the follower is going to be pushing on it in that direction. So you got to get it to where it slides easily that way, just by working out the holes and whatnot. And then you can take these screws loose and adjust the motor screw in and out until everything lines up, everything works the way you want. So it does take some adjusting, but that's basically all you got. And you know, that's all you got to do is just take a little time and get it working together. And then those motors, these aren't bonded on or anything. This is the wrong size screwdriver, but I can get them off. I have to get a different size screwdriver, which I may or may not have handy. Oh yeah, here's one. Alright, and again, see, those are little neodymium magnets that I just have on there so that the screwdriver will hold screws. Again, those came from the optics portion of the DVD drive. This is what controls the lasers between electromagnets and these magnets. It moves the lenses around. Alright, so that just comes off. That's all it is. Now you can see how messy I was. I had to drill into the wood to make these are little divots, tits, whatever you want to call them. I had to get them to fit in there, and it, you know, but see, it has a little bit of play, so you can adjust it around a little bit on those screws. Okay, so that's really just how an axis is made. This axis is the same way. The brackets, you know, this bracket's a little bit different shape. Pretty strong magnets. Let me try a different screwdriver. This bracket's a little different shape, but it's basically the same thing. Now sometimes it's hard to get these brackets on where they run easily and don't jump. And so in this case, I was having a problem with jumping because it's running on just these two little ridges right here. That's what it runs on the screw. And so what I did, let's see if I can get where you can see this. Okay, so you got a little piece of plastic on top that holds it down. So what I needed was something to keep it from jumping up. And all that is a little piece of, I think it's a lead off an LED. And I heated it up on a candle, and while it was still hot, I stuck it into the plastic. Then I clipped it off and bent it up where it hooks on that screw. And that held it in place, kept it, you know, just where you want it, so it ran up and down the screw just perfect. Now this one, I didn't need it. I got everything you know, adjusted up the right way, where that one didn't need it. But it's basically the same thing. A lot of people are asking me, you know, in the comments, are saying, well, you know, send me some dimensions. Well, I don't know what dimensions to send you, because you basically just make everything the size of your rods. So I had some different size rods. These were the longest rods I had, so I used them for the outer frame. And then I had a pair of rods here that were a little bit shorter, so I used them for the inner frame. And then I just made my frame, you know, I built the frame so that it accommodated the rods. Okay, so that's all that I did. It's not something, you know, really complicated. Now, I'm not sure if I can push one of these out or not. Oh yeah, see, these are just press fit in there. Okay, so I just press. Okay, I just got them press fit in there. Alright, there's the last bracket that I made. It's not anything fancy. Alright, and you just got to take your time and get it done, and that just fits right in there. And then the spring pressure against the screw is what holds it in, and it holds the frame, you know, pushed up against the rods. Now, the holes, you've got two holes, sets of holes. You've got your tight holes, okay? So these are the tight holes because they hold the rod. And then you've got, these are your loose holes, okay? They're the ones that the rod will slide through, okay? I drilled them all the same size when I started, using, you know, use the same drill bit to the tight size. And then if you overdo it, let's say you drill that tight hole out and it's too tight, then all you do is take your super glue. You know, I've got super glue, you know, I keep these things around all the time. You take your super glue and you put it inside that hole and let it harden up, and it will, you know, make the hole smaller. And then you can take a little roll of sandpaper and twist it in there, or a little file or something like that that's round, a little round rat tail file or something, twist it in there and until it opens the hole back up to the right size. And then the same thing with these sliding holes. You definitely want to put super glue in here. So the first thing I did was put super glue in it and harden the hole so that it doesn't absorb the oils that you put, the grease that you put on there. Okay. So you put the super glue in there, it hardens the wood, and then you use a file or a piece of sandpaper and you sand it out the way that you want. Now, it's really hard to drill these holes accurately. I saw a guy on YouTube, and he did one of these on a 3D printer, and it looked really cool. Looked like he did a really good job. But what I did was I cut the pieces, and then I put these opposite pieces together and pinched them together, held them together, and drilled the hole top to bottom using a drill press. So it was pretty straight, and it was close, but then you had to work things around. So sometimes, you know, maybe the hole needs to move in this direction. So you can file it out on this side, put a little super glue on that side, file it out, super glue, file it out, and just move the hole over until everything's adjusted the way that you want it. Okay, but that's essentially it. And then this finish is super glue. A little trick. You just squirt some super glue on there. I use my finger and I just rub it. I mean, I guess for safety reasons I should say don't use your finger. But you know, you spread it on there and let it harden, and it makes a nice finish. Okay, all this stuff is finished with super glue. It kind of makes a tough, hard finish that it adds to the strength of the wood. It makes it where it doesn't absorb grease and that sort of thing. And then one thing you're going to have to do when you're doing this kind of stuff, let me get all this mess up here, is okay, what I was going to say before my camera shut off is that one thing you're going to have to do is lubricate. The rods need to be lubricated screws, the followers, the holes that, well, not these are the tight holes, but the loose holes that the rods slide in. Everything's got to be lubricated so that it works very easily, because, you know, again, these motors are not real strong, so you got to get things right and smooth and easy flowing. So one thing I do is when I take apart a DVD, I keep this little jar, and if you see that, that is the silicone grease that the DVD drives are lubricated with. So the screws and the slides and those sort of things, there's always too much in there. So you know, as soon as you pull one apart, just get your you know, get a little you know, flathead screwdriver like that, and get in there and pull that grease out and just stick it in a little jar, and then you have it. This stuff is, you know, I don't know, that's what they use, so it's probably pretty good. Probably doesn't collect dust and doesn't bleed and move around too much. So I just keep that little jar. I mean, that's enough to lubricate 50 of these things, so it doesn't take but a bit. Okay, well, now we just have a big pile of junk, so I guess we'll have to build something else. So that's it. That's how you do it. I think you can do it yourself. Just give it a try, and you know, don't forget to like the video. Please subscribe. That's how I know that you guys like this stuff. I mean, I've got lots of views and lots of thumbs up, but I don't have many subscribers. So go ahead and subscribe, and you'll get to see all the other stuff we're doing. All right, thanks.